ます。今見ていた選手たちがどのような、競技を繰り広げていくのか、皆様今しばらくお待ちください。さあ、それではもう間もなく男子の決勝戦が行われます。皆さん盛り上がる準備はできてますか？このままじゃ選手が出てこないですよ。盛り上がる準備できてますか？ありがとうございます。さあ、ということでですね、もう間もなくこちらの会場 IFSC ボルダリングインターナショナルシリーズが行われていきます。
Oh my goodness!
Welcome everybody to day number 2 out here in beautiful Hiroshima, Japan. That's right, we are all the way over in Japan for our first edition of the FWS World Series 2018. Thank you so much for joining us once again. And today we have a new event as we are looking to start with the bouldering out here. I'm Ryan Meyer, the host of the FWS World Series, joined by none other than bouldering expert Pete Woods. Pete, thanks so much for joining me out here.
Thanks for having me out here. It's great to come and be part of this event and see what we can bring in terms of climbing and an event like this that showcases so many different sports.
Exactly, and this is a new event for the FWS World Series. The IFSC has teamed up with the FWS organization to bring bouldering to you guys. We have since had a bouldering event at the FWS in Montpellier, but this is the first time we're bringing it to a global level and onto the world tour. What does this exactly mean for bouldering, Pete?
It's a good step for bouldering. Most of the bouldering audience is restricted to the normal climbing audience that watches the World Cups, that watches their National Series championships, these kinds of things. This lets us bring bouldering to an audience that likes to watch a variety of different sports. So people that watch skateboarding, BMX, all these other things, gain an appreciation for the movement, the difficulty, and competition bouldering.
And touching on some of those other sports, if you guys are just tuning in and you're boulder enthusiasts and you may not know exactly what the FWS World Series is, it's basically an organization that has been going on for 21 years strong. This organization started in Montpellier, France, and it is one of the largest, the biggest, and basically the only action sports series that is going on a global level, pushing amateur and professional sports of all different disciplines around the world. And we're super excited to be able to announce that we are hosting more events, bouldering and parkour as well, as you guys have seen on the live stream yesterday. So it is not just the BMX, the inline, the mountain bike, and so forth. We are pushing forth into other action sports disciplines because we do have so many different respects for all other categories. Today it is all about the IFSC Boulder Finals, which is just about to get underway here in Hiroshima, Japan. It's beautiful weather out there. Yesterday we had a little rain delays. How would that maybe affect the climbers out there?
The climbers prefer when the temperature is a little bit lower for an outdoor competition. Humidity and heat on the holds when your hands are sweaty make it much harder to hang on to the holds, as you might imagine. A little bit colder is good. Rain is not so good. So humidity and moisture in the air, a bit tricky, but they would have been pretty happy yesterday with the conditions. They were still in shorts and tank tops. So they're used to a lot of the World Cup events are outside, so they are used to competing on stages that are out in the open.
So what does this mean when a climber has just told that, hey, there's a new event happening with this FWS World Series? It is an IFSC event, but it is maybe not going to count towards their points for the overall. Is this maybe a decision for them to come join the event or come not? But because we do have a great turnout of climbers out here today.
We do, and it's a part of their international climbing series, which means that they promote it, they're part of the organization, they help out along the way. What you've got at this event, because the World Cup starts next weekend in Switzerland, most of the open level competitors are in the midst of their training, and adding a competition into the schedule doesn't really work for them. So what we've got in this instance is a very strong group of youth climbers from Japan and from a couple of the other countries. Here we've got a climber from France and one from Belgium, and this is an excellent opportunity for them to compete at a large-scale competition without being part of the World Cup series. So we've got the next generation here today.
So let's just take a look back. I believe we have some highlight clips of the inspection happening previously.
Sure, what these guys do is, in this style of competition for the finals, all of the athletes have 2 minutes to look at each of the boulder problems. So there are 3 boulders. They'll get 2 minutes to look at them as a group. They'll discuss what they think they're going to do collaboratively. You know, what is the sequence going to look like? And they'll talk to each other. They do those 3 previews. Then they go back into an isolation zone, and then they come out and climb each boulder solo. So they're only climbing by themselves. They have 4 minutes to try the problem. They have as many tries as they want in those 4 minutes. Obviously, you get tired. You can only try so many times. And then they will try the first boulder, all the climbers, and then the second, all the climbers, and then the third, all the climbers, one after another. So this is our first climber out is Clément Ozun, and he's going to give us our first look at boulder number 1. Normally there are 4 boulders in a final. With the shorter wall, they've got 3 boulders in the final. I talked to the chief route setter, again, HIROSHIMA, and he was running me down what the style that they were going for on each of these boulders. So the first one is what we would call more of a classic boulder. Smaller holds, kind of more classic style movement and climbing, something that's been around for as long as we've been competing. Has been boulders of this kind of format. And you'll see some different styles in the second and third boulder that are going to showcase different skill sets from these climbers. So these guys they're conscious of attempts because number of attempts do count in the scoring. If it takes you 3 tries to get to the top of a boulder and it takes me 2 tries, then I'm ahead of you. So they're conscious of attempts. They put everything they have into each attempt because it does matter and because you do get tired. So we're going to get our first look at the sequence to come through these first few moves. Slow and powerful movement on this kind of boulder. You need to be quite precise. The holds aren't very good, so you can't move dynamically. And you can see these footholds are shiny on the outside.
Yeah.
So a lot of climbing holds have a lot of texture on them.
Yeah.
And then the climbing hold manufacturers love to continue making holds that will challenge climbing from the beginner in the climbing gym all the way up to World Cup competitors. So this dual texture, the outside of these are shiny like your marble countertop. So they offer no friction, and you have to be very precise in how you grab them and how you step on them.
And so what the climber is doing here as well with the holds, is this basically putting chalk on it? Is this giving more grip for him as he goes across?
It's going to remove some of the chalk.
Okay.
So you want to have, it's a delicate balance, and everybody has their own opinion on how much chalk is too much chalk. But you don't want it to build up on the hold because it removes some of the friction.
Okay.
So they will brush the holds between attempts to give them a little bit more friction, give them, basically you're scrounging for every possible opportunity to give you that little advantage.
And Pete, it sounds you're very experienced with this. You've been doing this for over 25 years professionally. You've been teaching as well yourself out in Calgary. How did you once get into this as a competitive level?
A very long time ago, a friend of mine said, "Oh, I'm going climbing with my university's climbing club. You should come." So I went, and I was immediately hooked. And then the first year that I was climbing in gyms, I realized that there were competitions, and I thought, I want to see what this is like. And I took to it right away. I really enjoy the stressful environment, the pressure of you must do it now. You can't come back tomorrow and try it again. And it really it agreed with my personality, and basically never looked back. I love competing. I love the atmosphere. The climbing community is very, very inclusive and really fun to be a part of.
That's great, and this is as well something that we strive to focus on so much out here at the FWS. It is basically a little family in itself, and we're always welcoming new entries. This is as well why we have from not just a professional level of competition, but as well for amateur athletes. So if you guys are ever in a location where we are having one of the FWS World Series stops, make sure that you guys come out and sign up for any disciplines you guys want to compete in. You can try yourselves and your skills against the top professionals and work your way through the ranks. And if you have what it takes, come out and compete against some of your top heroes. I know that was a very big motivation for me when I was able to go out and compete against some of my idols that I looked up to. And this must as well happen in climbing, that you go to some events and you look at these top climbers, especially we're out here in Japan, and it seems the Japanese climbers are doing super well as well in not just in climbing as well, but in all the disciplines of sports that they have out here. But how do you see coming out to Japan and seeing the Japanese climbers so far?
It's fantastic. And in the last few years, probably the last 5 years, Japan has really come onto the world stage with some top-end competitors. They've dominated podiums on the World Cup circuit in both lead and bouldering. And this is the first time I've been able to see some of the junior climbers, the younger climbers. This is Rei Kawamata here is 14 years old, and he was first at Youth World Championships last year. So in his category, he was the top competitor in the world at the Youth World Championships. So the Japanese climbing is growing stronger and stronger every day. They have a very strong team internationally, and they take it very seriously. There's a ton of climbing gyms in Japan.
Yeah.
And the sport grows, and as people reach international status, then more people watch and more people realize, and then that brings more awareness, more money, more gyms, more climbers, and the cycle continues.
Yeah. We had this conversation actually on the bus over, because I had mentioned, oh yeah, obviously, I've done some climbing. I just moved to Berlin. There's like 5 gyms around me. You said something very important. I think is like climbing is something that basically everyone can get into. You can just easily go. You have the ability at such an entry level to start climbing, but that jump to being a professional is so difficult as well. Like where they're at right now is at such a different leap. When you guys come out here and you actually watch firsthand, you notice the sheer difficulty and time that they have to put in to get to such skill level of climbing here.
Yeah, and absolutely, and that's one of the things that as you just mentioned earlier, to be able to climb against the heroes that you had growing up, is that people get onto the World Cup stage at 16, 17, 18, and they're competing against people they've watched compete for years before that, and it drives you to go and train harder and be better. And as a beginner in a gym, you might train or go to climb at a gym where an international athlete, that's their home gym. so you can be around it, and then you can see how much better they are. You watch it on TV, you watch competitions. As a beginner, you think, okay, it's hard, but how hard is it? Because skateboarding, you can go and try a kickflip.
Yeah.
Climbing, you can try problems, but you don't get to try the difficulty of a World Cup level boulder in your home gym.
Exactly.
So it gives you that opportunity as you climb around better and better climbers to try. You go over, you kind of quietly, once everyone's left, you go and try it. You're like, I'll go try what they were trying, and you're like, it is a lot harder than I thought it was.
Yes.
And it is that beautiful mix.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at the walls and I was like, I don't think I can try this one yet. No.
Yeah, and right, and that's the difference. Is some people are like, I could do that, and then they try and realize they can't, and there's people who are like, I definitely cannot do that. I'll come back in 5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
And see what I can do. But these guys, at 14 years old, he's probably been climbing since he was 6 or 7, competing probably since he was 12, and you have an affinity for it. It's like you drop a kid in a pool, they're a good swimmer or they're not.
Yeah.
Now that you have the exposure of more climbing gyms, people didn't used to discover they were good at climbing until they were in their 20s. And now you discover that you're good at climbing because you've been going to a climbing gym since you were 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So we've found athletes that would maybe not have climbed previously that are very, very good very, very quickly. And you see how difficult this move here, the balance and the change in angle of that wall, the hold that you're going to isn't giving you a lot of purchase, and then your whole center of mass is swinging away from you. So there's a lot of core tension involved in a movement like that. And the feet aren't that good, and everything kind of combines together to create the difficulty. It's not always obvious what makes a boulder difficult, but we'll try and walk you through some of the subtleties in why one movement is more difficult than another, especially through the different styles of climbing.
And I noticed that he was holding his fingers actually coming off of that wall there. Is that some kind of injury actually that would maybe be common, I would feel, with trying to get such a strange grip sometimes with your hands? There might be finger injuries, or do you have many injuries within the sport?
There definitely are. I mean, the amount of force that you're putting on your finger joints, so in the tendons, in your fingers, if you can imagine, if you're at home, go and grab the door frame above one of your doors, that about, that 1/4 inch edge, imagine trying to pull your weight up over and over and over and over. It starts to put a lot of strain on your joints. We see some tendonitis, we see some elbow tendonitis, you see shoulder injuries. But these guys train quite smart. We're getting smarter and smarter with when we approach what style of strength training, and climbing athletes are getting more and more well-rounded. And you see injuries, of course, happen and people get unlucky. But definitely, people will come off a boulder probably and hold their fingers if the holds like this one are very small.
Yes.
Also, maybe it might be just a bit cold, so you're trying to warm your fingers up, and there's the skin. Every time you fall off, you lose a little bit of skin friction. So you'll see some blood today for sure. Knees, ankles, fingertips, knuckles.
Yeah.
These guys will throw everything they have at this wall to get these boulders done.
So, what is the indication with the pink line?
Yes, so
By the way, for everyone back at home, pardon my ignorance towards the sport. I am a very novice at this, so Pete is basically coaching me through my first boulder event.
Your first boulder event. It is exciting. I mean, I love that you're interested in it. I love that you're coming in and doing an event like this, and not just sort of letting it happen, but wanting to learn more and more and more about it. And we'll run it down very quickly for you, the scoring and the style here. So that you must start statically. So there's 4 pieces of tape at the start of every boulder. So you need all 4 limbs must be touching tape.
Yes.
Before you can move to the next hold. So here on this one, there's a hand and a foot.
Okay.
Whereas right foot is now, and then a left hand and a low foot.
Okay.
The finish was also marked with the same color of tape, and you must have both hands and show control on the finish.
Yes.
And then the pink tape hold is a bonus hold. So we use that to help break down the scoring, to remove the opportunity for ties. So the way it works is the number of tops of boulders. Ooh, that's well done.
There we go.
Very well done. And then it's the number of attempts. Couldn't quite unlock that after having grabbed the bonus hold. So grabbing the bonus hold, obviously, is step number 1 in getting up a boulder. And then once you pass that, you get to the top. So number of tops of boulders, and the number of bonuses that are grabbed, and then the number of attempts it takes to get to each one of those. So that's what we look for in the scoring. So watch for climbers to work very hard to get to that pink tape hold, and then obviously they want to top the boulders at the finish. So we're going to welcome, I have a very, very special guest. If you follow climbing at all, Yuji Hirayama is going to join us. He has been a top-class World Cup competitor and climber outdoors for generations, really. So I'm very excited to have Yuji here. Yuji, thanks for joining us. Welcome and good morning.
Oh, with pleasure.
Excellent.
Thank
you. You're very welcome. So I was very excited when I saw that you were here because I wanted to be able to have a chance to talk to you about this style of competition at an event like this. So as we're watching some of these young climbers from Japan get to showcase their talent in front of other athletes and other spectators, what do you think that it helps do for the sport locally here? The exposure.
To the people who are here. I think many people start to know about climbing today, and then now they are looking at just the front of them, so they are more maybe getting interested, and then I think in this local area will be really excited about climbing, and I hope lots of people become a climber in Hiroshima.
Absolutely. And there are a couple of good climbing gyms here, so they've got an opportunity to come from today and then go look up a climbing gym and go and give it a try.
I know so far like 2 good climbing gyms in Hiroshima, so I think everyone can have a chance.
Yeah, I'm hoping to go check out Force Climbing this afternoon. I think that's about 20 minutes from here. So I know that there's at least that one, and then I think the other one is called PB Bouldering.
Okay. Force climbing, I didn't know. So, maybe
we'll talk more after. You can tell me the gyms you know, and then I'll be able to go and check them out. So we just saw Shuta very close to topping that boulder.
Oh, really?
Very, very close. And now Keita's going to come out also looking very good here.
He was Keita. Do you know Keita? He was one of the youth champion 2000 in Arco 2000 maybe 15.
Yeah, and he was the Asian youth champion last year, and he was second at the Youth World Championships and then first in 2016. So very good young competitor.
Yeah, today we have many good young climbers.
Yeah, and
in this event.
There's so many good young climbers, and I know that you've inspired a generation of climbers locally, and getting to see these climbers now. How does that inspire you to go and continue training and working to build the sport, seeing what these guys can do?
It's a climber mind, maybe. When I have a session with them, and then, of course, they go, they succeed much faster than us. But then
yes, they do.
Always like, oh man, why they do this kind of technique? Oh, why they do, we always learn something. And so, actually, they gave us a lot of inspiration, and even my age, motivation, comes up, and I think they give us a lot of inspiration by mentally and showing their performance.
I absolutely agree, and I love that you said that. I love that you brought, because we were talking a little bit earlier about the community, and that for someone of your level, the things that you've done, and someone who's climbed 515 and someone who's climbed V15 and been at the top of the World Cup podium, to turn around and look at a 14-year-old and pull inspiration and actually learn from them.
Yes,
you can continually grow as a climber for, I'm not going to give your age away, but for years and years and years and years. So I think that is one of the beauty of the sport. And the follow-up to that is that the more and more that I watch climbing, the podiums get younger and younger and younger.
Yes, it's true.
How do we balance that experience versus training? So yes, they're very good by the time they get to 20. Where are they getting that experience from?
I think the young generation are really, I think, clever, or they understand by the visually, maybe we don't talk so much with kids, but then they see when we climb, and then they look at I think our experience by looking at, and then they just
they absorb everything. You're right, they are like sponges. if there's some young climbers watching at home right now, what advice would you give a young climber looking to get in to compete, to sort of have that desire to have a career as long as you've had and have been successful at the top for so long? I mean, do you need to take breaks? Do you need to stay focused? Do you need to train and then relax? What's the approach to have a long climbing career? I mean, I've tried. I've had to take years off and come back to keep the love of the sport. So for you, what is that long-term look like?
I think the most important thing is to enjoy.
Yes.
You know, this is more important. I think even like, you know, when you have a break time, but then when you look at somehow climbing, you know, you feel like remotivate, and then you want it to be good, or you want it to climb something special, you know.
Yes.
And so, like, you know, I think keep the motivation. And I think it's to joy is really a key of the being like a long-term performance good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to ask you one more question. I don't want to keep you here too long. I know you want to go and watch this live. The balance between competing and climbing outside. So it used to be that the top competitors climbed outside a lot, and now we see climbers that are winning World Cups who don't get a chance to climb outside. I know that I think climbing outside is important to keep the love and that motivation you were saying. Do you think it's something that we should be infusing back into that younger generation to say, get outside, realize the roots of your sport, go and enjoy the nature, and still compete for sure, but there are two sides to climbing?
Yeah, I think, like, you know, how they have a skill, I think they can succeed something really special, you know, much more than, you know, us. I think today they still cannot maybe realize that it's such a fun, you know, being outdoor. I think just it maybe, you know, it's great, just like, you know, once they try and then see what they can do, and then I think if they know outdoor climbing, they will continue forever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Once they've finished competing, they've got that, you know, to look forward to, because that's really what we can do until we're 60 or 70 years old is to go outside and climb.
And yeah, already they are enjoying, no, but then to go outdoor, they could they could enjoy even much more.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you very, very much for coming and just giving us a few insights to somebody that has been at the top of climbing for, you know, the better part of, you know, 30 years. So you're one of my heroes in the sport, and I was very happy to be able to have you here, and appreciate your insight. And guys, if you're watching this at home and you're a young climber, you know, go and look up, watch videos, watch your heroes climb, and listen to the things they have to say, and get them to keep you motivated and involved in the sport. So thank you very much, and go and watch your Japanese team, and I'm sure they're having great success today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And now we are going to return back to the Belgian right now, trying his attempts at the boulder problem here. Nicholas Collin.
Yeah, he got very close on his second try there. He just you know, moved very confidently through that bonus hold, and then not quite getting to the top.
You're speaking about there with Yuji about climbing indoors versus outdoors, and I feel this is one of those things maybe that the youth seem to train with so much, is that they get comfortable as well with this one training facility, or with this one area that gives them, you know, they can go to every single day, weather permitting, school permitting time, and it just maybe seems to fit so much more to their to a fixed training program of where they want to get up to a high level, but as well it doesn't offer really that point of enjoyment and that point of fun. Like you were saying, that's something that you feel really, if somebody gets into as a climber, that they'll really be able to enjoy a lifetime with. doing it outside. I think that is a real important aspect to remember about all these sports, is that we do showcase them on a competitive level constantly, because this is actually what draws a TV program. But in the end, the essence is that you're out there to enjoy yourself and to have fun at it, and that's when you are going to do the best and be able to be successful the most, is when you're truly enjoying it and when you have a passion for that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And training is fun. You know, a lot of people take joy in training, but it also can become very routine. I can't remember how many days in my competitive career when I've shown up to the gym and really wanted to do anything but pull on holds for the afternoon. And you just have to bear down and keep with it and hope that you find the fun in training. And if not, don't leave the sport, leave competing, and get outside. You know, it's more relaxing. It's a different kind of day. So we're just watching Michi Narasaki here. He is an absolutely phenomenal young climber. 18 years old, basically easily getting to the top. So, first try. The gap even just between these guys here and watching the way he gets to that first try, no one else has topped the boulder. And a few other people took 4 or 5 tries just to get to the bonus. So this young climber is incredibly talented. He's got multiple podium titles through his junior career.
Wow, he made it look so simple.
So simple. He's been competing on the Open World Cup last year. Had a couple of top 20 finishes at 17 years old with some of the best in the world. He was unfortunately injured for the Japanese national team selection. So I was talking to Yuji earlier when we were looking at the boulders, and he said he thinks that Michi will be hungry to come out and compete. He hasn't competed in a couple of months because of his injury. So he's basically just been itching to get out and climb some competition boulders. So I think he's going to come out full speed this morning.
You know, we're just touching on that. I mean, all these climbers respectively have their expertise and their time and energy put into climbing. And I recently heard a famous mixed martial arts professional actually say, you know, nothing of these sports is actually natural ability, but it's more an obsession actually with the sport. And I tried to relate that to some of this, but it does seem to me that a lot of this is natural ability. And you speak about who is a good climber. You can notice, you know, after a while that somebody is a good climber or not. How much do you think that it is natural ability and it is just a dedication to training and training?
You opened up that can of worms, eh? You have to have some natural talent.
Yes.
You can't just keep hammering the round peg into the square hole, as it were. I've been around the sport long enough to see people that shouldn't be good be very good through just absolute dedication.
Yeah.
And then people who don't. This is going to be a fun boulder to watch for sure. And I've seen people who have been unbelievably talented but not had the drive to train. And then I've seen the perfect mixture where people come out and everything seems effortless, and then the more they train, the better they get. So you definitely need to have an affinity, strong tendons, right? The way your muscles are built. Yep. The classic climber used to be sort of small and compact. You don't see a lot of big, heavy climbers, so there is some body type that will push people out from the sport. When you get very heavy, hanging on your fingertips is more difficult. But there are top-end world-class climbers that you would look at on the street and think that they were maybe online gamers.
Yeah.
They're ropey, they're limber, they're long and slim, but they're unbelievably powerful. So the training brings out what your natural ability brings to the sport to begin with. And you always have to train, as we say, you train your weaknesses. So you find the thing that's doesn't come easy to you, and you train that. And in climbing, it's almost as much training for technique as it is building that strength. So this, as opposed to the first boulder, where we saw pretty precise movements, the sequence everyone did the same way. It was relatively obvious. This boulder is more of a balance, more of a showy boulder. So balance at the beginning. It's definitely dynamic. You're leaving your feet. And we've got a complex series of movements here. So you're going to we might see a half a dozen different styles trying to solve this boulder. And we'll see each of the climbers try 2 or 3 different things themselves. So they'll second guess what they previewed. So they come out and said, yes, I'm going to go 1, 2, left hand, right hand, top. it's not going to work a couple times, and they're going to think,
Okay, that's
what do I need to do different?
Yeah.
So we're gonna watch Clément here again. He said he's gotten close a couple times, which is it's very tempting to stay with what you tried the first and second time. And what he's going to here, these volumes have no other holds screwed onto them, so they are just friction. So that lower one is giving you enough momentum to grab the quite small bonus hold on that middle blue volume, and then right away you're going to need to stab a right foot out to stop that momentum swinging around. The finish we were looking at earlier, probably relatively straightforward, but still friction dependent, very difficult. So this is, I love these kinds of boulders. This is more classic World Cup competition style setting, insecure, balancy, testing a whole bunch of things at the same time.
Now, Pete, taking your 25 years experience in this, would you tackle this any different way at the start?
Nope. This is he's doing what he needs to do here. I would be having more thought to getting my right foot out sooner. You see the hold on the top blue hold, the yellow bonus hold, does not have enough purchase for him to slow his momentum down. So you need to do something else. Sometimes you just have to squeeze harder. That's always a rule. If all else fails, just squeeze harder. That's a rule in competition climbing. So he's you can see by his expression he's a little bit baffled and not going to waste any more skin or energy on it. 4 minutes goes very, very quickly. And it's a hard stop at 4 minutes. So if you have one hand on the finish hold and one hand in the air and that clock hits 0, that's not a top for you. You need to have both hands in control when the clock winds down. So it tests these guys in the way they approach the problem. So how much rest between attempts? The longer you rest between attempts, the less attempts you're going to get on that boulder in those 4 minutes. So you have to try it enough times to at least give yourself a chance to get to the top, but you don't want to get too tired, and if you wait too long and you fall off, you won't have a chance to have that next try, that one last try. So ideally, first try. That's always the goal. You see Ray here, he's at 14 years old. He was the overall youth world champion last year in his age category. So we know he's good. And the field is pretty dense for juniors. You know, there's a lot of talent in here. There's definitely a gap, as we saw with Michi on that first boulder. But these guys there's no steep drop off. They're all basically as good as each other.
In climbing, do you notice generally more lankier, longer torso or figured, having longer arms and longer legs is more common to see on top of the podium?
It comes and goes. There's been a couple of very good. Sean McCall, who's a Canadian and has been the overall world champion 4 times, and numerous. I'd have to look it up to tell you how many wins he's had over his career. Is short, so he's maybe 5'7". Okay. But some of the current top climbers are taller and lankier. Reach is always very important. So if your fingertip to fingertip reach is longer than you are tall, we call that a positive ape index. So that's how much of an ape are you? So if you can, the farther you can reach without having to move your center of mass has a big advantage. But if you've got a lot of limbs to get moving on a problem like this, maybe it's tougher on the coordination style boulders. If your feet are really far away from your eyes, things get a little more tricky. So you see Ray here slowing down more than Clément was, and he's trying to remove some of that momentum before he takes his right hand to go and grab that bonus hold. So he's slowing the movement down a little bit. He's trying to be a little bit more precise, still dynamic, but not quite as dynamic. And it's the great challenge of a boulder like this is I need to pull hard enough to get there, but if I pull too hard, I'm going to swing off. So it'll take a few tries, and this boulder is designed to have the climbers fall. It's going to take them 2 or 3 tries to figure out the movement, and that's how we break down less ties. And that's what we like. And the route setters are, it's a profession in and of itself now. There are basically professional route setters. They're working at gyms, getting paid to work at gyms, whereas it used to be almost a volunteer experience. So now you have a real depth in ability and talent in route setting crews Again, is set at a top level, so he knows what to do. And as a Japanese, the whole Japanese, all of the route setters are from Japan. So then they know these climbers, they know these juniors. They've set for them at comps, so they're aware of what they need to do to test these guys. So he's getting let down by his accuracy there. He's sort of taking a swing. You see, it doesn't look like he's going to stick that. He's got his hand close to it, but he's not in control.
Yeah.
He needs to be in control in order to get up there. And it's the sun on these holds is not going to help them. It's still not that warm out.
Yeah.
But it'll start to warm the surface of the holds up
Okay.
and make friction a little bit more difficult. See what he can do here. He's sort of definitely trying the same thing, and it's just, can I do it better than I did the last try?
And like you said, of course, you have muscle fatigue that just plays into that. It gets more and more difficult to get that jump.
Oh my goodness, non-stop.
Yeah.
The fatigue comes right away. I mean, I think some of the younger climbers don't get as fatigued as quickly. That's just how it works, but absolutely. You want to, but you cannot. So he's going to walk away without the bonus. They do go back. They are in an isolation zone before the problem altogether. They don't know. They can't watch their fellow competitors on the problem, so they don't actually get to see what goes on. They can hear from the crowd noise, they kind of get an idea, and then when they're finished the boulder, they all go slowly into another isolation zone. So they'll go back and talk to each other, hey, did you do it, did you not do it? So the competitors know.
That was a question that I was wondering, is if they are able to watch each climber before them tackle these problems.
No, so they don't get to watch, but they definitely afterwards, as much as the Japanese climbers will all talk to each other quite easily. Sometimes language barriers won't allow, but they'll go back and ask, hey, did you do that one? And so as they come out to the second boulder, they know who did the first one. As they come from the second to the third, they know what they need to do to win or to place. So it's an interesting little twist. So you see here, Shuta has changed. He's going with a slightly different foot position, and he's switched hands there. So he's a little more comfortable on this slabby, this less than vertical section. And he's setting up for that move a little bit differently. And so they will have discussed it.
Yeah.
So when they preview, they will have talked to each other and said, hey, should we go right hand? Should we go left hand? Should we double? Should I try and get a foot across?
Yeah.
And of course, all that goes out the window as soon as you pull onto the start holds.
Yeah.
And so I think Mike Tyson very famously said, everybody has a game plan until they get punched in the mouth. So pulling onto the start holds is about getting punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
And then it's just instinct and experience and ability. And as Yuji was saying, that growing that experience quicker than we used to. So now you're around better climbers much quicker. You gain that technique and that experience, whereas before you mostly only got it through competition, and it was took years to get this level of experience. And now these climbers at 14, 15, 16 have 4 or 5 years worth of competition experience under their belt. Getting himself sorted out. And you can see that they just don't look comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a comfortable body position. It's not obvious. It's not secure.
No, this one seems very, very difficult for them to get to that second nail hold.
And you see where they're grabbing on the undercut, the first right-hand movement that they make. When we see the next close-up of it, there's 2 holds placed together.
Yes.
And that's a route-setting trick to make it more difficult to use that hold. So they essentially make that hold smaller simply by adding another hold right beside it.
Yeah.
So you can't just get both hands on it. You can't shuffle over with both hands together.
Yeah.
You need to choose, am I going to use my right hand or my left hand? So
Yeah.
it's instead of finding a hold that size, they just create one. So route setters are working as hard as they can basically to stay ahead of competitors because they want them to fall.
Yeah.
They want them to succeed. Oh. So slightly different approach.
Yeah.
As he's running out of clock, he's getting maybe a little bit desperate.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I can't keep trying the same thing over and over. I'm going to try something different.
Yeah.
So he's got...
Which could work out sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's now we get to see. So once you've tried 3 or 4 times one way, once the other way, now we get to see if he goes back to his first technique attempts, his first sequence, or if he's going to try the one he tried most recently. He's going to go. Oh, so
It was a bit of a better hold.
much better. So he sorted out the momentum, slowed it down just enough. And you can see whenever they run back to the start hold, it's like, okay,
time is ticking, and this might work.
Exactly, and that's that combination. Oh, I think that was going to be it. I'm gonna go back and give it one more. Oh, and eventually the diminishing returns.
And you're like, wait, my arms were not ready for that.
And that's going to do it. So we're getting into it. So that's we're going to have Nicholas Collin come back out here. So no bonuses yet. Which, I mean, the root setters, I was sort of jokingly saying that they want you to fall, but they definitely want success. So they were...
but they want to make the biggest challenge for the professionals.
Absolutely, of course. So Gen was saying that, especially in more of a festival-style bouldering event, the crowd understands people getting to the top. We that have been in the sport for a long time understand the subtlety, so you can win a competition without ever topping a boulder problem.
Yeah.
If the setting is just a little bit off.
Yeah.
But if you're not accustomed to watching climbing competitions, then you're left confused. You're like, well, no one got to the top of anything because people think it's very binary. You get to the top, you did not get to the top. So they definitely want to have some tops in an event like this because the crowd is more interested when they're successful. Oh, and look at this. Completely different approach. So he's just maybe testing the distance, but very good balance. You see him move over there and very clever foot movements as well. And I'm curious to see if he tries that a few times. So he's been first and second. So he's won his age category at the Youth World Championships back in 2016, and he was second this year. And is also a good lead climber. So climbing has 3 disciplines.
Yes.
This is bouldering. Lead climbing is with a rope, so those are longer routes. Getting close. And then speed climbing, which is a completely different aspect. It would be hard for me to explain it to you, but if you want to, you can Google speed climbing.
Yeah.
Where these guys get to the top of a 10-meter wall in 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah.
So
it's incredible to watch. It's like literally real life Spider-Man.
Yeah, sprinting. It's sprinting vertically. And now that the Olympics, the format of the Olympics is to combine all 3 events. So we only have 1 medal as a demonstration sport in 2020 in Tokyo. And they said you can award 1 medal for climbing. And the international, it's very close, the International Federation decided the best way to show the Olympics our sport was to have all 3 events as a combined event. So the competitors will do a bouldering event, they will do a lead event, and they will climb in speed as well.
Okay.
So what we've done is we've shaken up
3 different disciplines into one event.
Yes.
Okay, wow.
Whereas normally people specialize.
Yes.
Most top-end boulderers don't do well on the lead circuit, and the reverse is true, and almost none of them do speed climbing.
Okay, and so then how has this been received in the climbing community?
See, without even knowing, you've opened up 2 of the largest can of worms discussions that we've had.
I mean, I can just imagine
it.
I mean, I haven't been involved in climbing very long, but I've been involved in sports for a long time. So,
and that's exactly right. And the point is that if you were to make somebody that was a 100-meter specialist do the high jump,
yes,
or run 4K, what you would end up with is your combined athletes would not be the best at any of the individual disciplines.
Exactly.
So you're leaving off the top competitors in each discipline
who have been pushing for that sport
for so long.
Exactly.
So it has caused a bit of discussion. I'm going to be very middle of the road. I have my opinions, but this is not the place to discuss them. We're just going to talk about it, basically from the middle of the fence.
Exactly.
But it's caused a debate in that, is this the best way to showcase our sport? The argument being, with 1 medal, if you only picked bouldering, then all the lead climbers would be upset. If you picked lead climbing, all the boulders and the speed climbers would be upset.
So that's the contrary. If you pick one discipline, then somebody else is always going to be upset. If you pick all of them now, everyone needs to be involved with each, which I do find to be an okay opportunity.
And he's trying to slow it all the way, and you can see. I heard the 1-minute whistle, so he's probably got about 10 seconds on the clock, and he's got eyes only for the bonus hold at this point. I love that. And the younger climbers, they have boundless energy. Right?
Yes.
You won't see an open competitor laugh and run to the start holds. They're trying to be very more serious about it. But so basically, the answer to your question is we are going to be able to build a generation of climbers that decide to train for all three events.
Yeah.
So you will have people that specify in bouldering and compete on the World Cup and have no designs on going to the Olympics. You have that for lead, you'll have it for speed, and then you'll have climbers that have decided that what they want to do is be an Olympic athlete, and they will train all three disciplines and then go and do the combined event. So the World Cup has all three disciplines. The schedules are built so that climbers can do all of them if they like. They don't overlap in a way that prevents you from competing in one or the other. And then the overall title, so the overall World Cup championship, you need to do bouldering and you need to do lead, and now they've added speed into that on the World Cup circuit. So the sport is evolved slightly. There will always be the individual disciplines. Think of it like the decathlon or the pentathlon.
Exactly.
So there were people who would choose to do all, and we will see some excellent climbing at the Olympics. I have no doubt. Some of these younger climbers now, as you said, are training for it. The Japanese Federation has actually created an Olympic strengthener team, they've called it. So they've picked some athletes, and the focus for them is putting athletes on the podium at the Olympics in their home country. So they've picked a team of climbers and said, you're going to do all three disciplines, and we're going to train for that, and we're going to specialize in the coaching and everything, comes around for those combined athletes. So it's the only nation that's outwardly come out and said we have basically, a looking ahead to the Olympics team. They've named a couple of athletes that are too young to compete on the World Cup, but in 2020 they will be of age. And that's Tani Natsuki, unbelievable Japanese climber, 14 years old. She is ridiculous, and has designs on being an Olympic athlete for sure. So Nicholas trying that slightly heel hook beta there just on the bottom of that start hold to give him the balance, and also getting quite close. This is a guy, he's got a bunch of top 10 results in his age category in the last 2 or 3 years. So they're seasoned competitors on the youth circuit. They know how to approach this.
We talk so much actually about Olympics and new sports being pushed into the Olympics. Many of these action sports have been thriving by themselves for so many years already. We have all been independently run industries and creating our own foundations as a sports discipline without the Olympics actually under us for so long. And then now we do have the opportunity to be seen on a global level to the masses in the Olympics, which many of us do appreciate and we do like, but this is obviously always such a difficult discussion within the sports. Is it good to be... Oh, very, very close.
Very close. And you can see, by the way, he's holding his hands up.
Yeah.
He knows.
Yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah. Basically, is it good? Is it, is it good for... Like you were saying, you have now countries who are raising their athletes for the prospect of saying, okay, you're going to go to the Olympics.
I do think he's going to do that, by the way. Yeah, and I think that's good. I think there are people that will always think that the Olympics is not the pinnacle of a sport. Right? They're going to want to be a world champion and not an Olympic champion. There are people that think that training, your whole life for once every 4 years is the pressure of that is unbelievable. So you need to be able to go. Oh, and you notice there if you're and he's going to run up. He got very close. He manages to pull up on this first volume as he goes to it. He's getting some extra height out of it. He's not just swinging. He's actually bending his arms, slowing down and reaching up higher. So painfully close, but not quite enough from Nicholas. And then we'll just take bets now on whether Michi's going to do this on his first or his second try. And I'm going to go, maybe take some one to figure it out, and I think he's going to do it on his second try.
I'm saying, let's say 4.
Let's say 4. So a couple tries to figure it out, and then once he sticks that bonus hold, I'm pretty sure he'll just get to the top. I like watching the Olympics. I like watching sports at the Olympics that don't normally get that kind of global TV time. So I think it does bring your sport out. I think it brings more participation, which means more money, which means better gyms, which means everything costs a little bit less and brings more people into it. So I think that is an advantage. I think the people that want to stay in a fringe activity that's in the Olympics will just not train for the Olympics. I don't think there's a huge downside. I think there's definitely some upside.
Yeah, for me, okay.
Yeah, so he's one to figure it out, and we'll see. He did look to get his foot over, and then we'll see if he decides that he needs that. I think he's probably good enough to just hang that crimp and then deal with it after that.
Yeah, for me, actually, the Olympics debate was always... It always made sense to me. If something was... I understand the wanting to be core and mainstream and hold to their own and not be part of this conformed Olympics committee, etc. But I always felt that it gave some sort of security, longevity, and some kind of acceptance from the rest of the world as, okay, the sport is being taken seriously if it was finally granted into the Olympics. And I do always think that it shows that maybe the Olympics committees are looking to progress as well now that they're moving to these more newer adventure sports. I really do actually think it's going to be for a good in the long run.
Yeah, and I think it is that long run.
Yeah.
That's, how do you keep people coming back? And for a lot of people, it is that. It gives that reason to do it.
Yes.
It's something to watch. It's almost that it's been justified as a sport. The Olympics thinks it's a sport, and of course not everyone thinks that way. Then hey, I've been surfing for this many years. I don't need surfing to be an Olympic sport to know that surfing is what I want to do.
Exactly.
I do think that climbing in the discussion, people often said that because it is a binary activity, you got to the top or you didn't, you got to the bonus or you didn't, number of tries. There's no style points involved. It's easy for people watching at home to understand why the winner won.
Yes.
I don't know if you watch a lot of diving, but I can't figure out. I'm like, that looked pretty good.
Yeah.
I guess not. Right?
The splash was maybe a little. I don't know. Couldn't. Yeah. Okay.
So people, there's always controversy in judged, in objectively or subjectively judged activities, and climbing is objective, and I think that helps bring it to an Olympic body to say, hey, there's no style points.
Yeah.
By any means necessary.
Yeah.
So you're closer than I was. That's 4 tries. And I think I'm quite surprised. And this...
Yeah, he's showing some fatigue as well. Wasn't quite getting that close on the last attempt.
Yeah, first attempt was the best one. And then sometimes it's just a small lack of focus in a...
Oh,
there we go.
That was pretty close.
In a movement like this that is complex, where you're worried about all 4 limbs going in different directions at the same time, and you start to focus on one more than the other and go, okay, I need to jump farther, and then you sort of lose track of what you need to do with your left hand, or you think, oh, I need to work harder in this direction, and you get your footwork wrong. We make the analogy, it's like a bit of like a golf swing.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times you swing a golf club. There's so many things to think about that if one thing goes wrong and you're overthinking, keep your head down, but you don't bring your backswing is terrible. Yeah. You overthink one side of it, oh, he just missed it. Let down by his hand-eye coordination. So quick look at the clock. Let's see what he gets up to. I didn't get up close enough to see how bad that crimp is, but if he can't lock his hands down on it, I'm going to bet that is a very small hole.
Yeah.
So full effort. So no bonuses out of boulder number 2. The route setters will be a little bit disappointed because they do like to see tops. But and we always want to see what the rest of the problem looks like. Because at home, people are thinking, this is how I would do it. And then they don't get to see it brought home. You're not sure what the intended sequence at the top was. This last boulder, so we only have 3 boulders. The last boulder, we're getting down to it here now. This is a showy boulder, so this is going to be some swingy moves. There's going to be some feet coming off. It's definitely it's still a techie boulder. It's not super obvious on the sequence. It'll be interesting to see what these guys work out. And then there's a little 2-finger edge that you can't see from this angle that good enough to do a one-handed 360 on, of course. There, he didn't get a good look at it there. Relatively good bonus hold. And then there's nothing on the left side of those. The big volumes have no extra holds on them, so it becomes a compression movement. You're just squeezing to stay on.
And then through the crack there.
Yeah, so they're going to end up shuffling up to get purchase and get, you can just see whether he's going to get his foot up or leave it down or maybe hug it. And then he'll come under that farthest left one. Keep that right hand shuffling up into the split between the triangle and the half moon in the middle. And move to the finish looks exciting as well. So that's the people that get up there are going to come sailing off. It's less of a control movement and more of a dynamic movement. So they'll go, the lower of those two gray holds has nothing else on it. So it's just friction on the angle of that hold. And then the finish hold is pretty good, but it's not great. It's round, it's a sphere, so there's nothing to sink your fingers in behind. You have to squeeze it. They'll get a bit of a wrap. They'll kind of get their hand up around as far as they can. If they're moving statically, it'll be no problem. If they're swinging around a little bit, it'll be harder to hang on to. So we'll hopefully get to see a couple of these guys get up there and show us what the top of this thing looks like. You see them, it looks funny to see somebody kicking themselves on the inside of their knee. They're trying to get, there's chalk on the mats because it builds up on the mat, and you want your shoes to be as clean as possible. So you saw that Michi carries a towel around to clean his shoes off, and if you don't have a towel, then you got your pants.
So we saw there Clement actually, kind of rethinking his game plan, his strategy before he tackled this one again. That's obviously weighing into the clock as well. Is that something? Yeah, I mean,
that's great. Wow. Yeah, he's going to squeeze with his feet as well, and then get his try and get his toe up maybe into the bonus hold. Continue squeezing. That's the 1 minute whistle we just heard in the background.
Wow.
He's going to need to switch that. Oh. That's fantastic. So not quite enough. So yeah, as you were saying, the longer you think about it, it eats into the clock time.
Exactly. As we just heard that 1 minute whistle.
Clement's going to have a nap. It's like he probably isn't going to get one more try. I think that probably took quite a bit out of him. But the crowd wants to see he's got nothing to save it for. Right? There's no other boulders, so you might as well take it right down to the wire and maybe get yourself a top out of this thing. Let's see how much gas he left in the tank. Just a little bit of fatigue, and the footwork is not as precise. And just like that, you can't make mistakes. The boulders are hard enough that as soon as you make a small mistake, you're going to come off unless you're stronger than your mistakes. So it does happen, right? People slip and slide and still manage to get to the top of things. It doesn't always look pretty, but we don't care about pretty. We care about tops.
Exactly.
So he'll be maybe a little disappointed to only have secured one bonus through 3 boulders, but he's put himself out on the stage. At 20 years old, he's still young by all stretch, and he's a European Youth Cup champion last year, so he knows what it takes to get to the top of the podium.
When does the youth division go until?
19.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you're not allowed to compete as an open competitor until 16. So you can't compete on the World Cup at 14. Quick shake of the head is maybe I shouldn't have done that. It's sort of the classic when you trip on the sidewalk and you look down at your feet. And you slip off and look at their fingertips. And why did you do that? Why did you do me like that? We worked together so well, and then you let me down. I just wanted to also, I know that the women's final goes this afternoon. It's not going to be live, but the results will get posted up after. And your finalists on the women's side, a couple of fantastic competitors, a slightly older field, so less juniors, a few more seasoned competitors. But Mayu Yamashita from Japan, Seiko Sugimura from Japan, and then Natsuki Tani, who is this unbelievable 14-year-old. Angie Payne from the U.S. is over here. and then Clementine Kaiser from France, and then Mei Kotaki also from Japan. So those are your women's finalists, and that's going to go down this afternoon at I think it's at 1:45.
And as Pete said, that isn't going to be on the live stream, but please make sure if you guys want to check out some other content online, go follow us on social media. Our Facebook page is fees.official. If you want to go check us out on YouTube, we're going to have a lot of video content posted up there. So just go to YouTube and type in FISE, that's FISE. As well, you can check out all the results from all the events happening out here on our website, which is FISEworldseries.com.
Yeah, and I've been really impressed, Ryan, with the social media control that you guys have shown, and there's lots going on. There's lots of output. There's lots to look at, and it's cool to see all the other stuff. There's breakdancing. There's the parkour that we were watching yesterday, and I'm really impressed with the FISE coverage of an event like this.
I was always very impressed with it as well. I'm locally from Canada as well, and I never really knew of the FISE World Series until I was competing in it as a mountain bike athlete. I don't even know, 8 years ago or something, longer than that, 10 years ago probably.
Something between 5 and 10 years ago. We don't talk about
I'm getting old and stuff with it. And when I first went to my first FISE event, which was in Montpellier before it was a World Series, I was so taken back by it. And now I build the largest music festivals in the world as another job of mine. And going to the FISE World Series still, seeing the spectators, seeing what the organization does for sports in general and for the athletes, it was so amazing to me. If you guys ever have the ability to come out to one of our stops, mark them down on your calendar. This year we're going to be having 5 stops around the world. Right now, obviously, we are at stop number 1, which is in Japan. Our second stop is going to be Montpellier, which is going to be May 9th to 13th. And then as well, we're moving to Canada. Edmonton, Canada is 13th to 15th of July. Budapest, Hungary, the 6th to the 9th of September. And finishing it off like we always do in Chengdu, China, November 2nd to 4th.
I think it's cool that you're going to be in Edmonton.
Yeah, it is very cool. So we're going back for a 3rd year in Edmonton, actually. In Harlech Park, I believe it is going to be again, unless there's a location change that I was not aware of.
That no one told you about?
I mean, this
It happens.
could happen.
It happens.
Could happen. But, so we're going to be back in Edmonton. Hopefully I'll be able to see you. It's been great. I think we're going to see you again on the mic here.
I would, I would love to have that. I've been, every time I do an event, I get more and more into doing the broadcasting. And as a almost fully retired competitor, it's how we stay connected to the sport.
Exactly.
It's how we get to bring what we built over our years of competing to the people at home and be able to hopefully enhance their experience. And sometimes we discuss major issues, and sometimes we just have a laugh and watch some really good climbing. So we're going to get Ray here is going to get one more shot, and he's looked good at the beginning, and then trying to solve basically it's almost a hand jam. So the split between those, the farthest left and you might as well get a bit showy, right? It's your last moment in front of this crowd. Might as well do a little one-arm lock-off spin.
Showcasing a lot of muscle control there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the hand strength is just ridiculous. It's something that if you haven't climbed, it's really hard to imagine without taking obvious things around your house, like your door frame. This is fantastic work. And the opposition, you see his left hand is pushing left, his right hand is pushing right. Imagine trying to hold the elevator door open is basically what's going on right there. And we're going to get a good look at how this top is going to go. Really good from Ray. He's going to leave that right foot jammed in there. Hopefully it sticks. Fantastic.
There we go, Ray.
Really good stuff. And that was probably almost his last. I'm pretty sure that clock was getting really close to 0 at that point.
Wow,
So
yeah. That was very close to nitty-gritty there.
that was excellent. So he will be psyched. And that was it's a fight. Sometimes that's bouldering is we call it pebble wrestling.
Okay.
Because it looks like you're wrestling, and when you've got. It's a good look at this. And you see that right foot stayed jammed in the bottom of that crack, and if that slips out, on the way to this slide. You see even have it sliding down there. That's what's holding him in. And even the angle between the top of that crack and the bottom is no accident.
Yeah.
That angle, they thought long and hard about. The lower your foot is, the wider the gap.
Yeah.
The higher it is, it's awkward because it's up in your business.
Yeah.
But the lower you go, the less likely it's going to stick. So these are things that you don't notice if you haven't been around this kind of route setting or climbing before. You think, oh, why didn't they make it a square?
Yeah.
That's going way back. That's an old school technique, is to basically use your arm as another hold to get through that move there. He's a little bit taller, lankier athlete, as you were asking earlier. Is there an advantage?
Yeah.
Sometimes there is. A shorter athlete's going to fight really hard for that span, and he's very comfortably got all four limbs.
Wow. Very, very
starfished out.
Oh, using other foot there.
And now you see it's continual evaluation. Is this working? Is it not going to work? Is it working? Is it not going to work? So the mental side of climbing boulders of this complexity is not to be overlooked. And now he's going to go. He's got a jam, so he's flexing his hand in that crack to try and make the back of his hand and his palm as wide as possible. And he's showing great control. That right leg is shaking like a leaf, though.
Whoa.
And you just see, that's a really good look at. There's not a lot to grab up there, and very, very impressive. Yeah, also very
happy
psyched
with that one. Yeah. First try, and in really good control the whole way up, and with enough stamina to rethink his sequence a couple times there and choose the way he was going to change his grip around. And that's a really good look at that finish hold too. Yeah, this is a cool boulder. And for as small as this wall is, they managed to test quite a lot of different techniques. That the transition on the far left from the vertical across that span, and then these two steeper boulders. Changing angles are always a little bit difficult for climbing. Long, big, flat angles used to be how we competed, and now angles change in the middle of a boulder problem, and these big volume holds also change the angles. So the classic style, which was left, right on small holds really far away, has given way to the subtleties of opposition movement, compression movement, your feet not being able to be used as much as you would like them to, because the angle has changed so drastically from where your right hand or your left hand is. Yeah.
I know there are people that prefer the old style of bouldering, but everything evolves. And we need to keep testing these guys. Oh, and he's a little half wave to the crowd in the middle of his one arm 360. So definitely a showy boulder, right? This gives these guys a chance to show this crowd that they can flex their muscles a little bit. Everybody likes to bend their arms and pull every now and then. Came up just a bit shy on the compression side of that, but I don't think he's too stressed about it. He's just sort of solving what he needs to do to get through this thing. Giving everything a good brush, as you tend to do. So right now we've got definitely Michi leading the pack with his one top, but now that we've got, if he doesn't top this, things get interesting. So we've got an opportunity for Michi to come out and take it home by topping this boulder when he comes out. But with the tops from Ray and Shuta, they've put themselves in the running immediately to be on the podium. Shuta just a bit ahead because he secured a bonus on the first boulder and Ray did not.
And so then how would that work with Michi actually and Shuta?
So if right now, if Michi was to come out and not do the last boulder and get to the bonus hold, it would come down to the attempts that it took them to get to those tops.
Okay.
So as soon as you have the same number of tops and the same number of bonuses, it's about how many tries it took you to get there. So that goes all the way back to you definitely want to try and do it first try. not just because it saves you energy, but because that's the pinnacle of climbing is to do a route or a boulder problem the first time. That's when climbing outside, that's what everybody strives for. We call that flashing a problem. He's doing it first try with no falls, and that is sort of the most to be sought after. And he's just shuffling his way up here. Maybe feeling that sunshine a bit on the left hand. He's very nice. He's trying to get his left foot up inside his, up by his rib cage. A great effort. It's a good example there of the amount of core tension it takes to stay in that kind of position without anything secure to put your feet on. He's going to walk away without a top on that one. A nice wave to the crowd. Yeah, to get that that body position without being able to put your foot on anything is very, very difficult. And we get into these contorted positions in bouldering because we're trying to find the best possible way to create that opposition between our hands and our feet to give yourself the greatest chance. You don't want to just chin-ups all the time. You don't want to just campus through everything without using your feet. You need to use them, and then the route setters do everything they can to make that uncomfortable for you. Because if you just give everybody left-right with good hands and feet, they're too good. So we have to confuse them. We have to test these different movements. We have to make it uncomfortable for them. We have to make it risky to try something and say, oh, this is a risky move for me. I go gentle control. And you see as he's trying to step on, that's a dual textured hold there as well on that, where his left foot is now just slipping off the top. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm surprised that he didn't quite stick that. Actually, he is coming off an injury. He hurt his back a couple months ago.
Yeah,
so
which is always a difficult injury to come back from.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe he's feeling that a little bit as we get to the third boulder. If he hasn't had a lot of time to start training again, maybe he's feeling that fatigue from having been off for a couple of months. But it's not going to stop him from trying really hard. That's for sure. This is it, guys. This is our last climber on the third boulder of the round. So in 2 minutes or less, we're going to have ourselves a podium. And I hope you've enjoyed, this look into climbing, and I hope, the route setters, I think, have done a great job about showing you the different styles that we see in World Cup climbing and in competitions that go all the way back to locals at your home gym. You're still going to see competitions. Every gym holds competitions, so if you live in a city that has a climbing gym, go down there and check it out. Go ask questions. Be curious. Climbers are a very open community. We love to help out new climbers and try and make the sport as accessible as possible. It's good enough for him to have a quick shake halfway through. He's not super stressed about that finger lock up at the top. It shows you the hand strength that he has compared to these other guys. So with the top here, he's going to secure himself a win. And jinxed it. That one's my fault, guys. I apologize. I apologize, Michi. That's my fault. Never call the top before the top is grabbed. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't done that.
Commentator's curse.
More than once or twice in my broadcast career.
We all do this. We all do this. It happens. Actually, it happens to my skateboard co-host Thomas Winter all the time.
All the time. That's awesome. And skateboarding's much less secure in terms of calling out whether someone's going to stick a move or not.
It's actually amazing to me sometimes. My expert talent, who is hosting beside me, how well they know their sport. It's beside me. For instance, Thomas, as we were talking about, he can basically tell to a point what score somebody's going to come out with.
That's impressive.
Which is very, very impressive to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And something like skateboarding, where you need to know the value of a trick, and you need to know if it was executed to that value. And it all happens so fast.
Yes. Yeah.
But the guy that won the skateboard yesterday, really, I didn't see anyone else throw a McTwist.
No, and as well, this shows just the talent of the Japanese athletes. We're noting on that this is actually the first, to my knowledge, this is the first FIS World Series event that I have been a part of, and I have been a part of all of them, where we've gone to a new venue, to a new country, and that host country, their athletes are on top of the podium.
That's fantastic.
Which is very, it's something to say about Japan and the dedication that they have towards these sports.
And the level that they're competing at. Oh, Michi gave everything he had, and he's going to walk away from that.
Wow. Okay,
wow.
So it's
he's
going to come
exhausted.
down to a points.
It's going to come down
battle here.
And I wasn't able to keep enough track of the number of attempts along the way, so we're going to have to wait for the official score. But it's going to be between Michi, Kita, and Shuta, I think, are going to be who we're going to have on our podium. And I will refrain from making a prediction further than that. It is tricky unless you've got somebody dedicated keeping track of the attempts on each of these tries, especially as we're trying to chat with you guys about it. So I think we should be pretty quick to get a result up. They do basically live scoring.
So yeah, as we're waiting for the judges to do a tally on that, let's just take a look at some of the replays from what just went down here.
Okay, so you're going to get to see some of the falls and some of the tops, I hope. So you get a good look at this first. I really like this first boulder. I love the movement that it showed, and
there you see Michi getting it first try.
Such a clean top, and a couple of very close attempts. A few swings and misses on that one. And the climbers like those kinds of boulders.
Yes.
You know, there's always some that are not in your style, but for the most part, they like being able to showcase. There's that top. Fantastic. Yeah, so tops from Kita and Shuta, and a lot of almosts. if you got your volume turned up, you would have heard.
Kevin's there getting a little upset.
Yeah.
Oh, almost got it.
Everything they've got.
Okay, and so having the results come in, it is going to be Michi on top, coming out with the win there.
Right, and then Shuta and Kita following up with also with a couple of tops, and it would have come down to attempts to split that out. And rounding out the field, we had a Nicolas, Clement, and then Ray. So a really good round. I hope you guys enjoyed watching that. To me, those were three great boulders and some excellent climbing from this level, given that some of these climbers were 14, 17 years old.
Yeah, so it's beautiful. It's been amazing watching this boulder event out here. So thanks for everyone to come and watch our top 6 athletes out here in Hiroshima. Pete, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for educating me on this boulder experience. It's been so fun hosting this with you. Thank you so much on behalf of myself, Ryan Meyer, and the rest of the FIS organization. Thank you guys, and stay tuned for more action coming your way. Here it is, day 2, final day of the FIS World Series in Hiroshima, Japan.